Forget trying to keep up with AI. It's moving too fast. It's time to think differently about it. Welcome to the AI Readiness Project, hosted by 𝗪𝗲 and 𝗪𝗵𝘆. They're here to help you build the mindset to thrive in an AI-driven world and prepare for what's next.
Oh, 𝗪𝗵𝘆.
Hello.
Shaking.
Hi,
Am I
everybody.
looking? Am I looking
Hi,
smooth?
Kyle Shannon.
Am I looking like a disturbingly old guy at the club?
At the club. How are you doing with your AI readiness these days? This week?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. I oscillate wildly from feeling clueless to feeling like I have a clue. And I'm in a process of starting to feel like I have a clue, which I think is a very bad place to be.
Why do you think so?
Because I think when about the time you think you have AI figured out, something changes and you don't. There's something about being in an ongoing adaptability mode where just you're gonna have to adapt to new stuff all the time. I think when you start to feel like, I think I got my head around this, I think you risk trying to lock it down and have it be that forever. So that's why I think it's a bad thing. How are you doing? What's going on with you?
Well, you know, I said before the show, I'm not exactly sure what I'm talking about today because we're like in the where the rubber meets the road phase of the work that we're doing in the AI space. I'll give you a couple of examples. You know, we're going to talk about today the AI Readiness Program and that it has quietly dropped.
It has,
but
it is soft launched.
It is soft launched, as we say. Then we oh, Rachel, good. We've got our friends in the house, and Steve-O and Reggie.
Nice.
So, you know, so the AI Readiness Program is now available to people. Meanwhile, we have just today, we had our first cohort. We launched our first cohort of the Certified AI Educator Program in 𝗪𝗍𝗂𝘃. So we now have our first group of 6 women going through this. And the thing that's so cool about it is that we have an internship, so they will not only be learning how to educate like through an adult learning and development, you know, framework where you're like officially doing things the right way for people to learn things, but then they get to try that out on our audience of young college age women in poor countries who are wanting to learn AI. So our educators get to try it out. Meanwhile, I got into this thing today where I need to say to somebody, who are the consultants in the 𝗪𝗍𝗂𝘃 consulting agency. So I was like looking around, I'm like, well, here's who they are. Like all of these things are we've got the conference. Like
I was gonna say, you got a conference.
All of these things are happening.
Yeah.
And we've got the conference. So like here we are. All of this stuff is coming to fruition. And I feel like this is what people on their AI journey will experience at some point where you just go, there's so much there now. There's such a center of gravity, whether it's because you've decided you're 𝗪𝗪𝘃 and now you are an AI filmmaker, right? Or you know, you're you and you're like, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna show up on TikTok every single day for forever. Or whatever, however it manifests. Like bunches of us are getting into this era now where we know what we're doing, we know what we have to offer the world, and we're making it available to the world. And like that is just very, very it's a very heady thing. It's a heady thing.
So I want to let you off the hook a little bit, if that's okay.
Please do.
So you said you like weren't really sure how ready you were for AI. I think you're not in a sort of, as we define, AI readiness, it's this curious, sort of exploratory, adventurous kind of headspace, right?
Yeah.
What you just described, you actually can't be in that headspace right now, right? What you just described is, oh crap, I've got to be the expert right here. I've got to show as a leader who knows what they're talking about, right? And as you said, put the rubber to the road. So I think the fact that you're feeling not too connected to that open, curious thing is actually a really good sign of where you are, right? You need to be there as a leader, and whether you make the right decision or not, that time will tell. But you have to be there, having made a clear decision. Here's who we are. Here's where we're going. Here's the consultants. Here's how this course is going to go. Here's how the AI readiness is going to roll out, right? So I give yourself a bit of grace. I feel like you're in a really good place, but it's not where you and I normally are when we talk about this AI readiness.
It's not where, like, because it is what it is, I need to be able to say, this is how we teach prompting. This is not how we teach prompting.
Yeah, exactly.
This is how we do use case-based education.
Yeah. And is it the right thing for all time? Probably not. Will you change it a week from now? Maybe. Nope. But right now you have to be definitive. So I think you're in a very healthy place. I applaud you. I mean, damn,
I think
lots of stuff going on.
I think I am. And I guess what I'm grateful for is that at some point in watching the learning lab, you said something about developing a point of view. I think sometimes our brains like mix together, but there was something about developing a point of view.
Yeah.
And I started thinking about how there are so many leaders out there, like especially like industry leaders, where developing a point of view is a very high stakes, risky situation, no matter what the topic is. When they develop a point of view, that's when they're sticking their neck out, right? And now we're asking people to develop a point of view around AI, right? And you kind of have to like,
I don't know that it's developing a point of view about AI. I think it's developing a point of view to be able to be successful with AI. I think if AI is going to amplify you and you don't have a point of view, then it's just going to amplify lots of ideas that are not focused. But I think it was you that told me that, when I was talking about this idea of have a point of view, have a creative point of view, that there's a lot of people in this world that have never been asked to have a point of view. Or to your point, if they have one, it feels dangerous, right? I may work in a corporate culture where having a point of view is like risking your job, right? Risking your livelihood. And yet, when you have a suite of tools that can allow you to literally do anything, how do you choose what to do? And I think that only comes from, well, what do you want? Right? What do you want? What does good look like? Who's it for? What are you trying to accomplish? And you're the only one that can look at the output of what this AI does and go, is that good or not? Right? And so like by definition, you have to have a point of view, or you're just going to be putting out crap, or you're going to ignore what it put out and just put it in the world, and it's going to be riddled with mistakes. And then that's going to come back on you as well.
Totally. Right? You're right. I think to be good at AI, you have to have a point of view, and you can get by for a little while without it. But eventually, you have to be able to articulate over Thanksgiving dinner. Somebody's going to ask you,
Yep. Why is it good? What's it good at? What's, all that sort of stuff. Yeah, I think inherently we all have some sort of an opinion on something. When we generate something, we can go, oh, that's good or that's not good. But having a point of view is really thinking about up front. I think I'll talk about this a little bit in what to focus on this week. Before you sit down to do something with AI, have you thought about what you actually want to do? Or are you just sitting down to crank something out? And, there's a place for that, just playing and just seeing where it goes. But there's also, if you want to accomplish something, then I think having a point of view and refining that point of view, right? Like this is why I talk about Rick Rubin so much, but I also think about like Gordon Ramsay, right? The one thing you know about Gordon Ramsay is he's got a clear and definite point of view that if something doesn't taste good to him, he literally spits it out, right? And he tells you what he feels with no filter, right? And I think that could be that strong a point of view. I think is sometimes makes people a little bit fearful. Well, I don't want to be a jerk, right? But having a point of view is important. And if you have a point of view, that by definition means that there will be some people that agree with your point of view and some people that don't agree with your point of view. And a lot of people don't necessarily want to be in that uncomfortableness, you know?
Well, yeah, and I'll give an example. So recently, one of the things that's been happening to us is the question about AI and the environment has been on everybody's minds in all of our presentations. And for a little while, I was kind of going to let that slide. Like I was going to just stay silent on that topic because you're threading quite the needle when you open up that conversation. Like you're threading a needle with the people in the room for sure. You are in a situation where you can lose all of your credibility in their, from their perspective, or where you can change some people's minds, or where you can sound like you're just Pollyanna. So that's been coming up more and more for people. And so we're having this robust conversation today about how do we handle when you're in the moment and let's say somebody has hired you to give a presentation, which is a deliverable, and you've got somebody who's needling on the, any objection around AI, but particularly the environmental one, because it's a hard question to answer. It's like actually difficult. You have to know stuff, or you have to have really good talking points. And so some of us are coming up with our point of view on that, like right now, right now, like while we're talking, or right after we're talking, we're making notes to ourselves and we're doing research and we're coming up with what are our bullet points for next time.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll tell you I'm glad that you're going there. I am not going there. I'm not taking much time to put much energy into that, ironically, because here's my thought on it is, what is the purpose of saying AI takes up too much energy? If the purpose of it is to say, hey, I really want to do something about that. I love AI and I want to find a way to make it more efficient, then great. But I think most people bring that up as an argument why they're staying on the sidelines. It takes up too much energy, right, so I'm not going to do it, right? It's one of those tropes that's really easy to say. It takes 10 times more energy than a Google search. Okay, yeah, it does. It also, makes you, 50 times more efficient at your job, which, may counteract that. But here's what I can promise you. The AI models are getting more and more efficient. As they get more efficient, a lot of them are going to start running on edge devices like phones, where they're not going to take up so much energy. Yep. And also the AI is going to start to solve things like, fusion and we're going to find more efficient ways to generate energy. So I feel like in the long-term scheme of things, it will be solved, right? Because if we want to have these toys to play with, if we want to have these tools, we're going to have to solve the energy thing. So my only point would be, to the degree that you're using it takes too much energy as an excuse not to get into AI, I no longer accept it. Like if you want to go into AI and find a way to make it more efficient, more power to you. Go do it. Let's go to solar. Let's go to wind power, whatever it might be. Great. But if it's just an excuse to stay on the sidelines, then for me, it just becomes another trope of why people are avoiding dealing with this.
Yeah.
And listen, at the core of AI readiness is being ready. Oh, your sync just went way off. So I think our timing, there's a skip.
Yeah.
So
it is way off. Yeah.
All right. Sorry about that. Didn't mean to cut you off, but being AI ready means being engaged with what's going on with AI. So so with that, let's talk about, yeah.
Okay, so one thing, two things actually. So on just to like give you and the listeners a little nugget. When people, because I agree with you that a lot of times it's just one of a series of examples of reasons to stay on the sidelines. And also it's an pretty anti-intellectual argument because it's a false dichotomy. It's not either or. So if we're gonna kind of go the route of being a little bit nonsensical, right? I'll recommend two things. One is, if you're concerned about the amount of energy that each ChatGPT, thread is taking, learn how to prompt better so you're not going back and forth. So I put it back on them.
That's good.
And then the other one is kind of like buying carbon offsets. For every hour you save by using ChatGPT, spend an hour doing climate justice advocacy.
There you go. Perfect. Love it. It's great. Beautiful. All right, you win. Let's see. Oh, that's not it. Okay, one thing to pay attention to this week. Okay. So here's a thing I think would be valuable for people to pay attention to this week. Chains. And here's what I mean by chains. One of the things that has struck me in the past couple of weeks is that when someone says, what's the best tool for XYZ, it's almost an impossible question to answer because the tools are really complicated. A lot of tools are multimodal and have all these different features that they do. And I also feel like saying things like, what's the best tool for making, this kind of output kind of reduces how you make stuff with AI down to a really simple, it's just like a tool. Like it perpetuates the idea that you just push a button with AI and out comes some work, right? So one of the tropes that people say is, well, AI is for lazy people. You just push a button out and out comes the thing. So when I talk about chains, what I'm talking about is the process, the workflow. What are the chain of events that have to happen? If you say, ooh, I want to make one of those Yeti videos, right? Where there's all, the Yetis sort of walking through the woods talking about whatever product they're talking about. I want to do one of those. Well, what is the chain of events? What are the chain of tools? What are the chain of activities? What are the jobs that you need to do to be able to produce one of those videos? Well, the first thing you have to do is you have to have a concept, right? So step one in the chain is have a concept. Now, is that a concept you came up with? Or are you just copying someone else's? Are you going to go to ChatGPT and brainstorm it? Are you going to go to a whiteboard and brainstorm it? And then second thing might be work with ChatGPT to come up with a campaign, right? Maybe you want to talk about, you want to have Yetis talking about Yeti coolers, right? Get it? It's Yeti and Yeti, right? And how did you come up with that idea? Maybe that's a collaboration with ChatGPT. And then now once you have a concept, now you can come up with individual ad ideas. And maybe you have ChatGPT write those. Then you have to come up with a voice for the character if you want to control the voice. Or maybe you're just going to use VO3 and just have it automatically do it. So everything that we do in AI is some chain of events, some chain of jobs. And some of those involve AI tools. And a lot of those just involve human input, right? I want to do this. ChatGPT gave me a result. I don't like the result. Make it better. There's a lot of back and forth. I'm going to go make an image of what my Yeti's going to look like. No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. No, I don't like that. Back to point of view. So my thing to pay attention to this week is when someone asks you, what tool did you use for XYZ? Don't just answer the tool. If I just say to you, oh, I used Hedra to make that, or I used VO3 to make that, you're just like, oh, okay. And then you don't have a VO3 subscription and you don't know how to do it. But if I say to you, oh, to make that thing, well, first I had the concept and then I kind of did this brainstorming thing with ChatGPT and then I went to the whiteboard and then I went to 11 Labs and I designed a voice. And then there's something about unpacking that process that lets the person asking the question know that there's way more to this AI stuff than just pushing a button. There's a lot of craft in it, right? Even if what you're just doing is a recipe book, right? I got to come up with the ingredients, and then I come up with the tone, and I started with my grandma's recipes, but some of them were bad, and so we changed some of them. And like there's a chain of jobs that has to happen before you get to some output. Some things with AI are much more simple, but most things that I see that are of any value have been some chain of events, some chain of jobs that are strung together. So that's my thing to pay attention to this week. So I'm curious as to your thoughts of if I am blowing smoke up my own butt.
No, okay, yeah. So Reggie in the comments just said exactly what I was saying, which is this is a craft. So there's all these people out there saying AI is ruining our craft.
Right.
AI,
Is a
generative
craft.
AI
Yes.
is a craft.
Yes.
It is a freaking craft. Don't take that away from me. It is a craft. I am a creator. You
Yeah.
know what? Yesterday when we were in the AI Salon Presents, we had Preston Marks
Pearson.
from Pearson Marks from /𝗲𝗃𝗲 was on the AI Salon Presents last night, and he was showing us 𝗟𝗃𝗃𝗲, which is it's like a podcast, AI podcast creation. Yeah. And what was really cool was he was feeling sheepish about doing a demo because a lot of times demos can kind of have the connotation of being salesy. Well, 𝗟𝗶𝘃𝗲, who's your co-founder of the AI Salon, she said, wait a second, time out. You've created this. This is your art.
Yeah.
This is your art. Do us the honor and the privilege of showing it to us. Like, and by the way, what an act of vulnerability too, when we show people our babies, our artwork. And that stuck in my head, and I was like, why can't we claim in the sea of people on LinkedIn, et cetera, saying, AI this, AI that, AI is taking your jobs, AI is ruining all the crafts, blah, blah, blah. Why don't we get to own that AI itself allows us to be creators?
The fact that that when you sit down and to think, hey, I need to create an ad for LinkedIn, you sit down and you're like, okay, I need to do this. You kind of know the 7 things you're going to do, right? How did you get to that? Well, you got to that through trial and error, and you got it to a point. Some of those chains of jobs that you put together are known, right? Like if you were to document it, you could probably say, okay, for this kind of output, I use this tool, then I use that, then I use that, then I use, like, you could write it down. There's other things where you're just like, I don't really know. I kind of know where I'm going. And you kind of meander down this path of these things. And at some point, if you get it right, you're like, oh, I want to remember that. So what I would encourage people to do for the next week or so is start noticing your chains of jobs, start noticing those chains of events, start documenting them, right? Start documenting them and then start talking about them, because I think that idea of revealing the craft of AI is really important. And I think it, especially for like the doomers that are like, oh, AI is just push a button, it's just lazy. No, it's only lazy if you treat it lazily. If you treat it like a craft, then it's not lazy. It is an art.
So here's a fun challenge. What if we all committed to, when the next time somebody says, what did you use to make that? We take like a minute to take a step back and say, yeah, I will tell you the tool that I ultimately used, but here was my thought process going into it.
Let me tell you how I got there. Yeah.
Let me tell you how I got there.
Or you know what? It was a lot of tools, and some of them weren't even AI. You know what? I used a whiteboard. I used whiteboard technology for this. It's from like 1962.
Yeah, and then to maybe even also to articulate that there's a category of tools that I used. I chose from, maybe you're like, you know what I did? I used a tool that makes videos.
Right.
There's
Right.
15 of them.
Or I tried 3 tools that make videos and 2 of them failed. This was the one I went with, but I've done other projects where I went with one of the other ones, right? Like, again, that's that idea of it's not a singular thing. If we reduce it down to the tool did the work, it removes us out of the process. And we're critical to the process. Even when we have agents and we're saying, hey, agents, go off and do this stuff. We're the ones that say what to do. We're the ones that curate what comes back. We're the ones that choose what to put in the world. So all of that is some chain of events. So that's my word for the week is chain. And my activity for the week is start paying attention to the craft of what you do and start talking about it.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's good stuff, Kyle.
Thank you. Thank you. All right, let's. I'm excited to get Tara up here. So let me just talk a little bit about the AI Salon, and then you can talk about She Leads, and then we'll talk about the AI Readiness Training Program. So if you have not joined the AI Salon, what are you doing with your life?
What are you doing with your life?
Go to the salon.ai, click on join our community, and join our community. And if you haven't introduced yourself to the community, what are you doing with your life? Introduce yourself to the community. And then if you're in the community and you're like, yeah, I'm just kind of then you should really think about joining the mastermind, which is this more focused way to step up your AI game within the AI Salon. So the AI Salon is free. The mastermind is subscription-based, and you can really step up. And it's a really great group of people that are stepping in there. It's just getting started. I'm really excited about it. So go join the AI Salon.
Join the AI Salon. And also, if you're a woman in AI or wanting to get into AI, join She Leads AI. So what we have is an AI academy for education. We have a consulting agency, we have a paid community, and we have something that's evolving into like kind of a think tank. We're not exactly sure what it is, but it's all of our like nerd brains wanting to nerd with more people who are similarly nerdy. And one of the ways to find out if we're a good fit for you is to attend Social Saturdays. So this is an evergreen opportunity. You are fully invited any Saturday, any weekend of the year. We are on Zoom from 10 a.m. Pacific till noon. You can get a Zoom link by just going to sheleadsai.ai. There's a little registration button. You get the Zoom link, and it's good for any Saturday ever. It's free, and we would love to have you.
Yeah, come join. The other thing, a little known fact, I run the mansplaining division of She Leads AI. I'm really excited about that. So it's a lesser attended little corner of the community, but you know, I'm there to answer any questions you may or may not have
that I can't answer properly.
Exactly. Exactly. Or I can restate what you really meant. I'm happy to
restate it.
Yeah. AI readiness. We have the AI readiness training program has soft launched. We officially launch in, I think, a week. But if you go to areyoureadyforai.com, this is the training that we put together based on the presentations from AI Festivus, and we looked at what were the commonalities across all of those, and how could we break that down into a training. This is per request of the participants of AI Festivus. And it is now live. ภิkkį Baptiste put together the training, and it's really quite remarkable and very thorough. And you get a lot for what you're paying here. You get a lot. So go check it out. It is well worth your time. So there's that. Thoughts on? Are you ready for AI? You excited?
Well, I think that so I was going back through some of our speakers and their presentations yesterday, and how enduring their recommendations and thoughts and perspectives and the things that they're up to. Like, I know that AI changes at the speed of light. I get that. I'll give you that. But what's in the AI readiness program, like what's in Tara's program that we're going to talk about in a minute, it's fundamentals. It's like, who you are and how you relate to AI. It's like how you think. And it's not like you have to learn exactly every button in some app that you've never heard of. And when it goes away, you won't even know because
Right.
it's like not that important.
Right.
And so the content there is going to help you think broadly about AI, and you're going to know, the next thing that comes down the pike, you're going to be like, oh, this is how I thought about, making videos before, but now I can, or how I made images before, and here's how making videos is different, right? Like how I approached it. So it'll allow you to create a way to like organize your thoughts around AI.
Yep, it's a shift in mindset, and really exciting. So please go check that out. So with that, why don't you tell the good folks about Tara, and then we'll bring her up here. But while she's backstage, say all sorts of nice things about her. So,
I'll say all sorts of things.
Yeah, exactly.
So one of the things I really appreciate about Tara is that she is a learning and development expert. So when she creates something, it's made the right way for our brains to actually learn.
Nice.
I mean, Kyle eventually teaches us stuff. He gets around. It's like if you hang around for a year or two,
yeah,
you'll learn something. Whereas Tara's like, if I do X, your brain does Y, right? So she knows how to teach us stuff. And she took that skill set and turned and created AI educational content that is the only on-demand content that I would ever recommend to anyone other than the AI Readiness Program, but that's different, right? If someone was like, I need to know how to use AI, I would only say, go to Tara. Go to Tara's programs. And she's also a delight. She is so generous to the AI community and such a fan and such a supporter. And she's also hilarious. And her recent content series has been a joy to follow along with. Tara, welcome.
Hi, Tara. Welcome.
Hey, oh, thank you so much. That is, such high praise from you, Anne. And yeah, I'm so happy to be here. And yeah, I'll tell you a little bit about Do That Dave first.
Great.
A lot of people ask about the name. It's a reference to the sci-fi classic film and novel 2001: A Space Odyssey, where a rogue AI system named HAL 9000 takes over a spaceship and then very famously declines to follow the commands of their human crew. There's, out there in space, and they're trying to get inside. One of the astronauts is trying to get back inside the spaceship and says, "Open the pod bay doors, Hal." And Hal says, "I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that." So, it's a little cheeky, but, I launched this to help people discover AI, regardless of their level of technical expertise, and learn how to use it in their work, but also to understand how the technology works so they can control it instead of letting it control them. So we offer interactive self-paced courses in basic AI literacy and skills. We do live hands-on workshops so people can actually learn by doing instead of just listening, because like Anne was saying, that's one of those principles of learning design where listening and remembering is very much the lowest order of learning objectives that you can have. And what you really want to get to is these higher order objectives, like applications, analysis, thinking about how to use these tools, and building these chains of processes that we can, actually get to our outcomes, and we're not just using AI for AI's sake.
Right.
We're trying to get something out of it, do something. So Do That Dave. That's a little bit of where that comes from. And one of my favorite my favorite course at Do That Dave is the one that I presented during AI Festivus, which is called the Future Product Playground. And this is a creative exercise, really, where we show people how to brainstorm product ideas of the future using ChatGPT or Claude or their AI friend of choice. And then, come up with something that's going to come out 50 or even like 100 years from now that seems like sci-fi right now, but is probably not going to be for very long. And then we actually just really take the to ridiculous lengths and have people do a whole go-to-market strategy for it. So they do their business plan for their future product and then do a pitch deck, because you got to go out and get some VC money to make your future product. And we do creating a product landing page, creating collateral like videos, social media stuff. So it's a way to really introduce people to a really broad variety of different tools and different use cases, but in a way that's not, just going through a checklist. It's like all anchored around this, fun concept. And we've really seen people just kind of realize how easy it is also to take some of these ideas that maybe used to seem really out there and really impossible, but you can do this stuff now. It's not, a lot of people, I think, get hung up on this idea of like, well, I wouldn't know how to start a business, or I wouldn't know how to launch an organization, or, even just a big project. But it's really, you can now. It's so much easier than it used to be because you've got all these tools to help you. So I've seen a lot of students just kind of like have that moment where, they go from thinking, wow, I could never do that, to, well, I can, totally can. So
You mentioned something, Tara, that I'm curious if there's been evolution there. You're talking about sort of use cases, like I want to make a homepage, and I want to make a website. What's your philosophy, and has it changed on, did you teach, here's ChatGPT 101, here's tool 101 versus here's use case 101 or 201? I'm just curious, what's your philosophy on, do you teach the tool? Do you teach the use case? Do you teach the chain of events? Like where's your head these days? And has that evolved?
Yeah, I always try to stay tool agnostic with everything I do. I think you mentioned earlier, which is a great way to think about it. Talk about the class of tools that you're using, not like a particular one, because they're all a little different. Sometimes it's going to depend on, what you're looking for and what you're trying to accomplish. I myself, switch back and forth between ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini, just depending on what it is I'm trying to do. And I do try to give those tips as I go along for what's worked for me. But at the end of the day, it's really going to depend on, what your style is and what you're looking for. So really try to teach that skill of like thinking about which tool you want to use too, thinking about what you want to achieve with it, instead of like, we're going to use ChatGPT for this and we're going to use Gamma for this. I mean, I have to pick one to demo it. And so I use my favorites, but also try to give people, thoughts on how they can work through that decision-making process for themselves. So.
Very cool. You're muted, Ann.
No, Ann's on mute.
How did that happen? Sorry, I got distracted by the chat. People are talking about whether guys can sneak into She Leads AI or not. It would be awfully difficult because we are a cameras on community, so you would get kicked out just by not having your camera on. Anyway, what I love about the playground is that it really addresses this thing that Kyle was talking about the chains. You're teaching people to think so much more than use the tools. The tools are just like this. They're like
You just went mute again, Anne. We have a gremlin. I can hear. I just unmuted you. Or no, I can't.
Oh, am I back?
You're back.
Okay. Yeah, something is happening. If something happens even more, I'll go out and come back in. But it's like the tools are just like stops along the way.
Mhm.
And I love how if you get somebody to think about something, kind of kooky, crazy, like unthinkable that could happen in the future, you give them the gift of not having to worry about how. Because in our real everyday life, all we ever have constantly are stuck in how. How am I going to do that thing? Right? And it's so boring and pedantic, right? You can't spend time with your head in the clouds because you're constantly having to be practical. But what you're letting people do is play and dream. And you're like, don't worry about the how. We'll figure that out. It's going to be one of these type of tools and one of those type of tools. But in between, you're going to do all this stuff. You're going to maybe journal. What are all the different things that you could create? Like, I
Yeah.
specifically remember in first grade, they asked us to come up with an invention, and I came up with an invention that my substitute teacher, by the way, told me was impossible. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. It's not me. Maybe in first grade, I was like, whatever. But, yeah, it may not seem like it's possible, but who cares about that? Right?
Yeah.
Like, and that's what you're letting people do. They're like, well, okay, we'll figure that out. I just think it's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could find that teacher and just slap him. I'm not a
I
violent person, but like,
know.
how dare you say,
I know.
quash people's dreams? But, and I think that's a lot of what's happening right now with AI adoption in enterprise level. It's just everyone's thinking about how they can use these tools to do what they're doing right now.
Yep.
And that's great. That's a great place to start. They're obviously in a business, you
Can
have to
make
be
it
focused
efficient.
on the ROI,
Yep.
but there's this opportunity right now to think about, well, what's even possible?
Yeah.
What is there's things that we haven't even dreamed of yet that, and you mentioned, like Kyle, you mentioned fusion. Maybe there's even something completely beyond
Yeah,
fusion that we've never
exactly.
even imagined yet. So
And certainly within a business context, right? How we do what we do as a business may radically alter over time. And is that change going to come from within, or is it going to come from, is it going to bowl you over from the outside? And I fear that a lot of the companies that just live in this sort of efficiency, use the tool as as an efficiency tool model, are going to get blindsided. And those companies that figure out how to train their people to think critically and do exactly what you're saying, they're going to be the ones that discover new way of doing things from within. And I think that's ultimately, that's how the winners will emerge over the next 10 years, I think.
I agree. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be these big players that we know right now. It's going to be organizations that are more agile and more creative, and
Yeah.
not the Titanic, which is a lot of these big.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
headed straight for the iceberg. We're out here kind of like in our
Yeah.
little boats.
Can I ask you a question on audience? So how long have you been doing Do That, Dave, or how long have you been doing AI education, whatever it's been called?
I think it's been about a year and a half.
Year and a half. I'm just
Yeah.
curious, have you seen a shift in your students, in the learners? Have you seen a shift in either how they're showing up or how they're learning or what you're teaching them? What are you seeing in your audience base?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I always definitely try to cater to the absolute beginners. And I think the misconception right now is that there aren't very many of those left.
Mm,
And, we're inside our AI bubble, right? We're
right.
all very much in it all the time, every day. And it's kind of inconceivable that there's people who haven't even heard of it or tried it. But I know for a fact that there are plenty because I meet them all the time.
Yeah.
My uncle, from he was just visiting me this past couple weeks ago, and he's like, "So, what is this AI thing? I don't even get it. Like, is this?" And he's like, "Is AI the one making all these horrible comments on Facebook?"
Wow.
Could be, yeah. I mean, so unfortunately, some of those are real people, but a lot of them are
Yeah,
bots.
exactly.
It's like, and he's like, he's been, he's worked in the corporate world for decades, and he's semi-retired now, but still, it's like, it's not a given that everybody knows this yet. And
Yeah.
I'm in Silicon Valley too. I live in San Francisco, so we're
Oh,
even
you're even
worse.
more of a bubble.
We're even worse, thinking that everybody knows it. And I go to these events around town and I talk to people, and I'm like, "Yeah, there's people who haven't heard of it." And they're like, "No, it
Wow.
couldn't be." I'm like, "Yes, it could be." So
That's amazing.
yeah.
All right, so let's tee up our 3 questions here. Yeah, jump in.
Yeah. So, Tara, one of the questions that we ask all of our guests to answer is, when did you know that it was time to go all in on AI, and what happened next?
It was pretty shortly after, I think, ChatGPT 3.5 was first released to the public there in November of 2022. A little after, though, because at the time I was doing a lot of freelance work as a learning designer. And, my business partner at the time kind of came to me with this and like, "Have you heard of this?" And I was like, "Oh, it'll never be better than me." And true, it's still, and I started to play around with it, and I was like, "Oh, I guess." And then I was like, "Oh, I could use this to do this."
Yeah.
I used it to do the parts of the stuff that I always hated doing
Mm.
as a learning designer. Like, I like coming up with concepts on my own and writing a lot of the content, but then I get to the end, I'm like, "Oh crap, I got to make quiz questions.
Yeah.
I got to do a course overview." This is the stuff where I'm like, I don't got time for this. So, I really started to see that potential and just really see it as not like a replacement for anybody. Like, I never thought in the beginning, the first, the initial iterations of the technology, I never thought it was going to be replacing anybody. Now, I'm not so sure,
Yeah.
but as it's advanced. But at the time, I was like, "But this can be, this isn't going to replace me, but this can multiply my effect. I can do more, and I can do more of the things that I've always wanted to do." So I really just, and I've done a lot of work in the past developing programs for people in marginalized communities, helping build the technical assistance programs for people who want to start their own businesses, was what I was doing a lot of at the time. And I was like, this, and I just thought, this is going to leave those people behind, just like everything else has, every other advance and every other, the disparities in educational outcomes are so stark that this is going to just make the gap even wider than ever. So that's really where I got in, and what I've been doing ever since is just trying to make sure that everybody who has access to this.
Yeah.
So,
That's amazing. That's great. Okay, so let me ask you question number 2 that we asked our guests, and it's kind of really, I'm interested in this one just based on what you just said. So, given your specialty, your focus, and your worldview, what are some trends, or what is a trend in AI that you're following, and why?
It's my favorite question.
oh man, I mean, everybody's looking at agents right now, right? And I've been following this very much from the sidelines. It's not something that I do a lot in my teaching practice, because it takes more to get to that point where you're ready for that than people realize. You don't discover AI and then the next day you're building your own agent. so much more goes into it than that. You have to know how to work with these models. You have to know how they behave. You have to know how to get consistent results. And like, again, theme of the day, you have to have your workflows documented. You need to know the chain of events that needs to happen to get to what you want. And that's not even an AI problem.
Right.
That's a workflow. That's an ops problem.
Right.
That these workflows are, tend to be like, especially creative workflows, they tend to be ill-defined, live in somebody's head exclusively, or, they're institutional knowledge that aren't necessarily like easily teased out. And
Yeah.
that's the big part of, what you have to do before you even get there. And I think it's kind of funny. And I also think it's hilarious the way, people are slapping this agent label on things
everything.
that are not.
Everything.
Yeah, it's like natural foods, right? When everyone was like,
Oh, yeah.
it's a label that means literally nothing right now.
Now
because
agentic.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Now with agentic.
Yeah.
That is not that's an automation. This is not a system that has agency and that can make decisions and that can take independent actions and actually, So it's going to take a long time, I think, for that to shake out. So, but I just kind of sit and watch this trend and kind of like,
yeah. What will be the tipping point for you where you feel like someone's actually cracked it? So I assume you've played with like Manus or GenSpark or those things that have agentic elements in them. Do you think those things are there? Like what's it going to look like? What's going to show up in the world where you go, now we've shifted gears?
Yeah, I think it's going to come from, getting the workflows actually documented and seeing how these models and these systems, these agentic systems, can actually pass off these different tasks in a way that makes sense. I'm not sure I know exactly what that looks like or how we're going to know.
Yeah, I don't either.
Like, it's just, maybe we're going to call customer service one day and an agent is actually going to solve our problem.
Right.
In a way that makes sense. And that's going to be like, that was actually an agent. That was but I think it's quite a ways off. And, that's something I do a lot in my workshops right now. I've been working with some teams that are they've been using AI, but want to go a little deeper and be more strategic. And I'm trying to get them set up for this occasion. And I like to say like GPTs or like a custom AI assistants, that's like a gateway drug to agents. You see what they're doing, you observe how these tools behave so that you can set yourself up to use, hand stuff off in a way that you don't have to be there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. I guess if you're wondering, like, where's the tipping point? It's when they act right when you're not there.
Oh, that's good. That's really good.
Real agentic AI.
That's really good. I love that. That's great.
I'm with you on the, when we're working with people and they're at the stage where they're ready to make custom GPTs, the brilliant part and why I think currently, like, we should still have the goal of getting to the phase where we know or we're interested enough and we know how to make custom GPTs. Because if that's your goal, you now know how to prepare for agents. You know how to prepare for different workflows. You know how to prepare better for the even very, very basic stuff. Because the very beginning of it, which is so boring, it's so pedestrian, is you have to have documents that you put in, you have to have some documentation, some files that matter, that like are current and are relevant. And you have to, Kyle and I were looking for a file yesterday on his live for 17 minutes. These poor humans were sitting around watching us talk about a file that we thought maybe sort of kind of existed. This was, great content, obviously. And you know, if you can't locate that because of the way you run your business, then you can't benefit. You can't do context engineering. Now we're trying to call it engineering, by the way, which is just like so annoying. Why can't we just say context? Just like, why couldn't we just say prompting? Why do we have to say engineering on the end of it so that tech bros are the only people who supposedly can do the thing? But anyway, I believe that teaching people some of these goals gets them ready for the bigger stuff.
All right. Question
I heard that for the first time. Oh, sorry. I heard that term for the first time the other day, context engineering. And I was like, oh, Lord. You mean you have your Google Drive organized? Good job.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
Better than me.
Oh,
I mean, I don't, but good job.
You know how to talk? Okay, congrats for that. Okay. So here's our third question, our third and last. We've got three. This is 3 of 3. What does AI readiness mean to you, and what would you advise somebody who's just getting into AI?
Ready, yeah. I mean, it's hard to be ready for this because we don't even know what we're ready for. Like that's we're not even sure this is going to end. It's probably not. But I think, the part for really being ready for anything is this, like, if you want to call it context engineering or whatever, but like knowing what you have, knowing where your knowledge lives, knowing what knowledge you need for what tasks, having your workflows documented, really thinking about, well, if I were to ask a human to do this task, how would I do that? What conversation would I have to have? What would they need to have? And that's really knowing what you do and what you're all about is the best way to be ready. From there you can just start tinkering with it and have that context ready. I always have what I call my AI go bag, which has got all my the prompts that I've used, the instructions that I've created for different GPTs and assistant applications, and all the context, like my greatest hits that go into pretty much everything that I do. And having that ready, I think that's how I stay ready. You got to keep track of this stuff. And I take it from somebody who's had to go back and dig a lot of this stuff back up after the fact. It's easier to do it. It's easier to do it as you go along. Save those best prompts. Have your documents that you use all the time in one spot. Don't ever sink effort into a particular tool without making sure you documented what you did with that tool and what the outcomes were, and how you could replicate it somewhere else, because some of these tools are just not going to be around even 6 months from now. So never trap your work into any one platform. I think that's how you stay ready, stay nimble, and just be ready to move all the time.
Love it. Stay ready. Just stay
Great
ready.
questions.
Well, those are fun questions, aren't they?
Awesome.
So let's oh wait, I'm getting an echo. I don't know who it's coming from. But thank you for that. That was really awesome. If you have not done it yet, go check out dothatdave.com. That's Tara's website. And anything else you want to say to the good people about what they should go check out on your side?
I mean, if you have never tried AI before, we have a course called Basic Training. It's always free, and it's really just gets right down to like, how do you opening up ChatGPT, creating an account, takes it all the way back to the very beginning and just guides people step by step through their first conversation. And then also what do you do next? How do you share these outputs? How do you save these outputs? How do you verify these outputs? Most important part, and so that's a great place for anybody who's really just at the very beginning. Otherwise, you know, we've got the course that we offer through She Leads AI Academy, which is our Explore Generative AI course. And that really digs deeper into how these tools work, but with an applied bent. Like, you want to know how they work so you can know how to use them best. It's not just, it's not super technical. We're going to show you what you need to know to get the most out of them.
Beautiful. Great. Well, Tara, thank you so much for
Great
joining
course.
us.
Thank you. It was so much fun. You guys have the most
It was
fun.
so fun to have you on the show.
So,
Great.
thank you.
Good luck with everything. Thanks for everything. Bye-bye.
Thank you.